Sunset Showdown, Stuckleberry's Stand, written by Reuben White. Chapter 1, Deadwood Gulch. In the heart of the untamed frontier, where the sun blazed high above and the winds whispered tales of adventure and danger, lay the dusty town of Deadwood Gulch. Nestled amidst rugged hills and jagged cliffs, its wooden buildings stood weathered by time and the relentless elements. But beyond the facade of weathered wood and sun-bleached shingles, a palpable tension simmered in the air, as if the very earth itself held its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Deadwood Gulch was a place where law and order hung by a frayed thread, and where men carved out their destinies with the cold steel of their guns. It was a town of gamblers and outlaws, drifters and dreamers, drawn together by the promise of freedom and opportunity in the vast expanse of the Wild West. And amongst the motley crew that called Deadwood Gulch home, two figures loomed larger than life: Hester Eugene Stuckleberry and Buckshot Boyd. Stuckleberry was a legend in his own right, a gunslinger whose name struck fear into the hearts of those who dared cross him. With eyes as sharp as his aim and a reputation as unyielding as the iron in his holster, he was a force to be reckoned with in a land where survival was earned with every bullet fired and every blood-stained dollar won. Opposite him stood Buckshot Boyd, a cowboy whose quick draw and even quicker temper were as notorious as the blazing sun that beat down upon Deadwood Gulch. With a swagger in his step and a glint of mischief in his eye, he was a man who thrived on chaos and reveled in the thrill of the fight. Their paths had crossed many times before, each encounter leaving a trail of destruction and whispers of impending doom in its wake. But now, as tensions reached a boiling point and the promise of a showdown loomed on the horizon, the fate of Deadwood Gulch hung in the balance. For in a town where honor was the only currency worth trading, and where the line between justice and revenge blurred like the shifting sands of the desert, the stage was set for a clash of titans that would echo through the ages. And as the sun dipped, low on the horizon casting long shadows across the dusty streets of Deadwood Gulch, the stage was set for the showdown of a lifetime. Chapter 2, The Saloon Showdown. The saloon doors swung open with a creak, allowing the dusty afternoon sunlight to spill into the dimly lit interior of the Deadwood Gulch watering hole. The air was thick with the scent of whiskey and tobacco smoke, and the sound of raucous laughter and clinking glasses filled the room. Hester Eugene Stuckleberry stood at the bar, his steely gaze scanning the room with the keenness of a hawk. His hand rested casually on the hilt of his Colt peacemaker, a silent warning to any who dared challenge him in his own domain. Across the room, Buckshot Boyd lounged at a table in the corner, a half-empty bottle of whiskey in one hand and a deck of cards in the other. His eyes narrowed as they locked onto Stuckleberry's, a silent challenge passing between them like a bolt of lightning in the stormy sky. With a slow, deliberate pace, Stuckleberry made his way across the room, every step echoing like the toll of a funeral bell. The other patrons fell silent as he approached Boyd's table, a tense anticipation hanging in the air like a gathering storm. "Mind if I join you, Boyd?" Stuckleberry's voice was low and dangerous, a rumble of thunder in the distance. Boyd looked up from his cards, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. "Why, Stuckleberry? I reckon I've been waiting for this moment all my life." The tension in the room crackled like dry tinder as the two men locked eyes, each one daring the other to make the first move. And then, like a match struck in the darkness, the confrontation ignited with a fiery intensity that threatened to consume them both. Insults flew like bullets, each word a barb aimed at the other's pride and honor. The air grew thick with the stench of hostility, and the heat of their anger burned brighter than the noonday sun. But amidst the chaos and the clamor, a seed of doubt took root in the hearts of the onlookers. For in the unforgiving world of the Wild West, where blood feuds were settled with lead and steel, the consequences of crossing swords with men like Stuckleberry and Boyd were as unpredictable as the shifting sands of the desert. And as the rumors spread like wildfire through the streets of Deadwood Gulch, whispers of an impending showdown echoed through the town like the tolling of a funeral bell. Casting a shadow of uncertainty over the once peaceful frontier town. Chapter 3, The Duel at High Noon. The sun hung high in the cloudless sky, casting a harsh glare over the deserted streets of Deadwood Gulch. Tension simmered like a pot left too long on the stove, the air thick with anticipation and the metallic tang of gun oil. At the center of town, beneath the scorching midday sun, a crowd had gathered, drawn like moths to a flame by the promise of bloodshed and retribution. They lined the streets, their faces tense with excitement and fear, as they awaited the showdown that would soon unfold. At the appointed hour, the church bell tolled, its mournful sound echoing through the stillness of the town like a harbinger of doom. The crowd fell silent, their breath held in anticipation, as Sheriff Samuel stepped forward to make the announcement they had all been waiting for. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice rang out like a clarion call, cutting through the heavy silence like a knife through butter. "Today we bear witness to a duel of honor between two of Deadwood Gulch's most notorious gunslingers, Hester Eugene Stuckleberry and Buckshot Boyd." A ripple of excitement ran through the crowd, their eyes trained on the two figures standing at opposite ends of the deserted thoroughfare. Stuckleberry stood tall and resolute, his hand resting casually on the hilt of his Colt Peacemaker, while Boyd lounged against a nearby hitching post, his eyes glittering with anticipation. As the seconds ticked by like grains of sand slipping through an hourglass, the tension mounted, each passing moment bringing them closer to the inevitable clash. At last, the church bell tolled for the final time, its mournful peal signaling the start of the duel. With a swift and practiced motion, both men drew their weapons, the sharp crack of gunfire splitting the air like a thunderclap. The crowd erupted into chaos, shouts and cries mingling with the deafening roar of gunfire, as Stuckleberry and Boyd danced the deadly dance of the gunslinger. Bullets whizzed past, kicking up clouds of dust as they ricocheted off buildings and shattered windows, leaving destruction in their wake. But amidst the chaos and confusion, Stuckleberry remained focused, his eyes locked unwaveringly on his opponent. With each shot fired, each movement calculated with precision, he edged closer and closer to victory, his determination unwavering in the face of danger. And then, in a split second that seemed to stretch into eternity, disaster struck. A stray bullet found its mark, tearing through Stuckleberry's side with a sickening thud. He staggered, pain lancing through his body like a white-hot poker, but still he refused to falter. Across the street, Boyd seized the opportunity, his gun trained unwaveringly on his wounded opponent. Victory was within his grasp, his finger poised to deliver the final blow that would silence Stuckleberry once and for all. But fate had other plans. Just as Boyd prepared to pull the trigger, a figure emerged from the shadows, a gleaming badge pinned to his chest. It was Sheriff Samuels, his steely gaze brooking no argument as he leveled his own pistol at Boyd's head. "Drop it, Boyd," he growled, his voice a low rasp in the stillness of the street. "This ends here and now." With a curse, Boyd lowered his weapon, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The standoff was over, but the scars it left behind would linger long after the dust had settled, and as Stuckleberry clung to consciousness, his vision swimming with pain and adrenaline, he knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in the ongoing saga of the Wild West. Chapter 4. The Sheriff's Intervention. The sun beat down mercilessly upon the dusty streets of Deadwood Gulch, casting long shadows across the scene of the recent gunfight. The air was thick with the acrid scent of gun smoke and the metallic tang of blood, and the once eager crowd had fallen silent, their eyes fixed on the dramatic tableau unfolding before them. Sheriff Samuel stood at the center of the deserted thoroughfare, his badge gleaming in the harsh light of day as he leveled his pistol at Buckshot Boyd's head. His steely gaze brooked no argument, his jaw set in a hard line of determination. "Drop it, Boyd," he growled, his voice a low rasp in the stillness of the street. "This ends here and now." Boyd hesitated, his fingers tightening around the grip of his gun as he glared defiantly at the sheriff. But the weight of Samuel's authority bore down upon him like a leaden weight, and with a begrudging curse, he lowered his weapon, his shoulders slumping in defeat. The crowd erupted into murmurs of disbelief and awe, their eyes darting between Stuckleberry, Boyd, and the imposing figure of Sheriff Samuels. For in a town where law and order hung by a frayed thread, the sheriff's intervention was nothing short of miraculous. With a sense of finality, Sheriff Samuels holstered his pistol and turned his attention to Stuckleberry, his gaze softened with concern. "You all right, son?" he asked, his voice gentler now, like a soothing balm to the wounds of the wounded gunslinger. Stuckleberry nodded, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he struggled to remain upright. "I'll live, Sheriff," he replied, his voice hoarse with pain. "Thanks to you." But even as the immediate danger passed and the tension in the air began to dissipate, a lingering sense of unease remained, like a storm cloud on the horizon. For in a town where honor was the only currency worth trading, and where justice was often meted out at the barrel of a gun, the underlying tensions that had sparked the showdown between Stuckleberry and Boyd still smoldered like embers in the ashes of a dying fire. And as the crowd dispersed and the streets of Deadwood Gulch returned to their usual state of uneasy calm, one thing became clear. The events of that fateful day were far from over, for in a land where lawlessness reigned supreme, and where the line between right and wrong was as blurred as the desert horizon, the stage was set for a showdown that would shake Deadwood Gulch to its very core. Chapter 5. Aftermath of the Duel. The dusty streets of Deadwood Gulch were eerily quiet in the aftermath of the dramatic showdown that had unfolded just hours before. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the deserted thoroughfare as the town began to slowly awaken from the chaos of the day. Hester Eugene Stuckleberry lay in his bed, his body still throbbing with the dull ache of his wounds as he drifted in and out of consciousness. The town's doctor had done what he could to patch him up, but the scars of the day's events ran deeper than any physical injury. As he lay there, his mind wandered back to the events that had led to this moment. The confrontation in the saloon, the tense standoff in the street, and the intervention of Sheriff Samuels that had ultimately saved his life. Each memory was a sharp pang of pain, a reminder of the dangers that lurked around every corner in the unforgiving world of the Wild West. But amidst the turmoil and uncertainty, a sense of resolve began to stir within Stuckleberry's heart. He may have been wounded, but he was far from defeated. For in a town where honor was the only currency worth trading, and where justice was often meted out with the cold steel of a gun, survival meant more than just staying alive. It meant standing tall in the face of adversity, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. As he pondered his next move, a soft knock sounded at the door, pulling him from his thoughts. With a grunt of effort, he pushed himself upright, wincing as pain shot through his side like a bolt of lightning. The door creaked open, revealing a figure standing in the dim light of the hallway. In his hand, he held a blood-stained envelope, its contents a mystery waiting to be revealed. "For you, Stuckleberry," the figure said, his voice a low rasp in the stillness of the room. Stuckleberry's heart pounded in his chest as he reached out to accept the envelope, his fingers trembling with a mixture of anticipation and dread. What could it possibly contain? And, more importantly, who had sent it? With a sense of trepidation, he tore open the envelope, revealing a single sheet of paper inside. On it, a message was scrawled in a hand as cold as the barrel of a gun. "This ain't over, Stuckleberry. You best watch your back, 'cause the sun sets on us all eventually." A shiver ran down Stuckleberry's spine as he read the ominous words, his mind racing with the possibilities of what they could mean. Who was behind this threat? And what did they want with him? As he pondered the implications of the mysterious message, one thing became clear. The events of that fateful day were far from over, for in a town where danger lurked around every corner, and where the line between friend and foe was as blurred as the desert horizon, the stage was set for a showdown that would shake Deadwood Gulch to its very core. Chapter 6. The Resolve of a Gunslinger. Hester Eugene Stuckleberry sat alone in his room, the flickering light of a lone oil lamp casting long shadows across the walls. The events of the day replayed in his mind like a relentless loop, each memory a sharp reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows of Deadwood Gulch. But amidst the uncertainty and fear, a fire burned within Stuckleberry's heart, a fire fueled by determination and resolve. He may have been wounded, and the threat against him may have been real, but he refused to cower in the face of danger. With a grim determination, he rose from his bed, his muscles protesting with every movement as he crossed the room to retrieve his trusty Colt Peacemaker. The weight of the gun felt reassuring in his hand, a silent promise of protection in a world fraught with peril. As he stared out into the darkness beyond his window, a sense of purpose settled over him like a heavy cloak. He may not know who had sent the ominous warning, or what they hoped to achieve, but one thing was certain: he would not go down without a fight. For in a town where honor was the only currency worth trading, and where justice was often meted out with the cold steel of a gun, survival meant more than just staying alive. It meant standing tall in the face of adversity, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the landscape, Stuckleberry knew that he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to confront the shadows that lurked in the darkest corners of Deadwood Gulch, ready to stand tall in the face of danger and defend his honor to the very end. For in the end, it was not the size of the gun or the speed of the draw that mattered. It was the strength of character, the resilience of spirit, and the unwavering determination to do what was right, no matter the cost. And as Stuckleberry stepped out into the new day, the echoes of the past fading into the distance behind him, he knew that he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with nothing but his courage and his convictions. For in a land where honor was the only currency worth trading, and where the line between right and wrong was as blurred as the desert horizon, the true measure of a man was not in the battles he fought, but in the strength of his resolve to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to never back down from a fight, no matter the cost. If you are enjoying Adventures in the Wild West channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button for future posts.